Everyone remembers Bruce Springsteen as the working-class hero who could do no wrong, but the reality of his 1980s marriage collapse reveals a calculated, expensive, and devastating timeline that most fans have conveniently forgotten. You clicked because you want to know how the biggest rock star on the planet seemingly destroyed the perfect Hollywood marriage overnight. But the truth is, the destruction didn't happen overnight. It was happening right in front of our faces, hidden in the lyrics of an album everyone bought, but nobody actually listened to. We're gonna answer 3 specific questions that rewrite the history of this scandal. First, was the infamous balcony photo in Rome a mistake, or was it a staged public exit strategy? Second, how did Springsteen manage to write an entire breakup album while his wife was still sleeping in the next room? And third, what was the actual price tag of Julianne Phillips' silence, a number that remained a rumor for decades until we looked at the inflation-adjusted settlements? The common belief is that Bruce Springsteen and Julianne Phillips simply drifted apart because they were from different worlds. He was the grit of Asbury Park, she was the glamour of Hollywood. The narrative says that one day he just happened to fall for his bandmate, Patti Scialfa, and the marriage ended quietly. That is the PR version, the contrarian take, backed by the timeline of the Tunnel of Love tour, and reports from that specific summer suggest something much messier. This wasn't a drift, it was a demolition. We are talking about a marriage that was effectively over before the first anniversary, a secret emotional affair that spanned continents, and a public humiliation that forced a 28-year-old actress into permanent exile from the A-list. According to reports from People magazine in May of 1988, the clock was already ticking on this relationship long before the public saw the cracks. To understand the magnitude of this betrayal, you have to look at the setup. This wasn't just a rock star cheating on the road. This was a man dismantling his life with a model to build a new one with a backup singer, all while the cameras were rolling. We have the dates, we have the lyrics, and we have the financial fallout. Let's look at the reality of the Rome incident. The most shocking aspect of this story isn't the divorce itself, but the public execution of the marriage in Italy, which brings us to our first major pivot point. Most people assume celebrities get caught by paparazzi by accident, but when you look at the logistics of the Rome incident in June 1988, that assumption falls apart. Bruce Springsteen was known for being intensely private. He had managed to keep his life off the tabloids for over a decade. Yet on June 13, 1988, while on the European leg of the Tunnel of Love Express tour, he was photographed on a hotel balcony in Rome, in his underwear, sharing an intimate moment with his backup singer, Patti Scialfa. Now look at the timing. According to the biography by Dave Marsh, Julianne Phillips was not in Rome. She was back in the States. The narrative at the time was that Bruce had been caught, but let's analyze the context. This was a man who controlled every aspect of his image. PR experts have argued for years that in the pre-smartphone era, getting caught like that required a certain level of carelessness that bordered on intentionality. He was staying at a high-profile hotel. He was on a balcony in daylight. The photos weren't grainy telephoto shots from a mile away. They were clear. They made the front pages of newspapers worldwide immediately. The impact was instantaneous. Per reports from the Washington Post at the time, Julianne Phillips found out about her husband's affair not from him, but by seeing the photographs in the newspaper. Imagine the brutality of that. You are the wife of the world's most beloved rock star. You are at home, and suddenly you see your husband half naked with his bandmate on the cover of the New York Post. This supports the theory that the Rome incident was a soft launch of his new relationship, a way to force the issue. It wasn't a slip-up. It was a message. He was done, and he made sure the world knew it before he even told his wife. But why did he do it this way? Why force a public humiliation? This leads us to the financial and emotional reality of the Tunnel of Love timeline. This is where the story gets darker and where we find our second answer. The common perception is that the affair started on that tour in 1988. The receipts, however, are in the music itself, written in 1987. If you look at the liner notes for the album Tunnel of Love, recorded in early 1987, you see a man confessing to feeling like a fraud in his own marriage. According to memoirs released years later, Bruce was writing songs like Brilliant Disguise and One Step Up while Julianne was in the house, Let's look at the lyrics of One Step Up. He explicitly sings about a house that won't get warm and a man looking at another girl. He wrote this and then released it to the world while still walking red carpets with Julianne. This wasn't just art, it was a confession tape. He was telling the public he was checking out of the marriage a full year before the divorce filing. The timeline becomes even more damning when you look at the tour schedule. Julianne was trying to make the marriage work. She showed up to shows, she tried to integrate into the E Street band culture, but according to band insiders and later biographies, she was always the outsider. The Tunnel of Love tour wasn't a tour, it was a breakup procession. Patti Scialfa had been in the band since 1984. She was a Jersey girl, a musician, someone who spoke the language. Julianne was the Hollywood model, the trophy that Bruce realized he didn't want. The tension on that tour was palpable. Every night, Bruce and Patti would share a microphone, singing duets that dripped with genuine chemistry, while his wife watched from the wings or the VIP box. It was a nightly reenactment of the emotional affair performed for sold-out stadiums. The payout for this section is the realization that the affair wasn't a sudden spark in Rome. It was a slow burn that Bruce documented, recorded, and sold to millions of fans as a platinum album before he ever signed the divorce papers. He monetized the destruction of his marriage before he legally ended it. This brings us to the money and the answer to our third question. What was the price of silence? When the divorce was finally filed in August 1988, citing irreconcilable differences, the media speculation was wild, but the settlement figures tell the real story of guilt and speed. According to court reports from 1989, the settlement was finalized quickly and quietly. While the exact NDA terms are sealed, the financial estimation at the time was staggering. Reports from the era pegged the settlement at roughly $20 million. To put that in perspective, $20 million in 1989 is equivalent to roughly $50 million today. This was a massive chunk of Bruce's liquid wealth at the time. Why such a high number for a marriage that lasted less than 4 years with no children? The amount suggests a premium for speed and silence. Julianne Phillips had every card to play. She was the wronged woman. She had the humiliating photos. She could have dragged this out in court for years, tarnishing the good guy image Bruce had spent 15 years building. Instead, she took the settlement and she vanished. This is the part of the reality that is most often overlooked. Julianne Phillips was a rising star. She had been in Sisters on NBC. She was landing movie roles. After the divorce, her career trajectory flattened. She eventually left Hollywood entirely. The payout wasn't just for the marriage. It was effectively severance for her public life. She never sold a tell-all book. She never gave the weeping interview on Oprah. She took the money and she gave Bruce exactly what he paid for, the ability to move on to Patti Scialfa without a lingering war. But there is one final layer to this expectations versus reality package that most people miss. We tend to view the other woman as the villain, but in the Springsteen narrative, the reality was flipped. Patti Scialfa wasn't the homewrecker in the eyes of the fans for long. She was the course correction. The PR machine worked overtime to paint Julianne as the mistake and Patti as the destiny. According to interviews Bruce gave decades later, he admitted that he didn't know how to be a husband when he married Julianne. He was suffering from anxiety, unsure of his identity away from the stage. He married the idea of a wife, the beautiful model who looked good in a video. But with Patti, it was real. The reality of this affair is that it wasn't just about sex or boredom. It was about Bruce Springsteen rejecting the shiny, plastic version of the American dream he had accidentally achieved and running back to the messy, complicated reality of a partner who challenged him. However, that self-discovery came at a cost. The expectation was that Bruce was the victim of his own fame. The reality, proven by the Rome photos and the lyrics, is that he was the architect of his own escape. He didn't just leave a key under the mat. He blew up the house. The Tunnel of Love era serves as a masterclass in how A-list celebrities handle scandal. They don't avoid it, they curate it. By letting the photos leak, Bruce ripped the Band-Aid off. By putting the confession in the songs, he controlled the narrative. And by paying the massive settlement, he bought the clean slate. Let's re-examine the forbidden aspect. It wasn't just forbidden because he was married. It was forbidden because it broke the cardinal rule of the band. You don't date the personnel. But in this case, breaking the rule saved him. The marriage to Julianne Phillips is now often a footnote, a brief stumble in a legendary career. But for those 3 years in the late 80s, it was the only thing that mattered. It destroyed the image of the infallible boss. It proved he was capable of cruelty, of calculation, and of breaking a heart on a global stage. So, when we look back at the forbidden affair that destroyed an A-list marriage, we have to acknowledge the collateral damage. Julianne Phillips played her part perfectly. She was the graceful victim who refused to fight dirty. And because she refused to fight dirty, Bruce was allowed to keep his crown. The reality is that the $20 million wasn't just alimony. It was a retroactive fee for acting in a tragedy she didn't know she had been cast in. To recap the answers to our 3 questions, the wrong photo was almost certainly a calculated move to force a public end to a private lie. The breakup album was written right under Julianne's nose, serving as a public confession of a private betrayal. And the $20 million settlement was the go-away money that ensured the boss legacy remained intact while Julianne's career quietly faded. The lesson here is simple. In Hollywood, there are no accidents. Every leaked photo, every personal song, and every quick divorce settlement is a move on a chessboard. Bruce Springsteen played a gambit in 1988. He sacrificed a queen to save the king. And looking at his life with Patti Scialfa today, decades of marriage instability, he would likely say it was the best money he ever spent. But for Julianne Phillips, the reality was a very expensive lesson in what happens when you fall in love with a man who was already married to his music. If you think this payout was wild, you haven't seen the legal gymnastics behind the Johnny Depp settlement era, which we are breaking down next. But for now, remember that the most forbidden affairs are the ones where the person cheating tells you exactly what they are doing, and you just don't hear the lyrics until it's too late.